I hope that you all can hear me. Thank you, Riyad. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the Statement of Interest grant session. I appreciate you guys attending, and we are recording this presentation for you guys to have as records and reference to. My name is Carlo Aragon. I'm the Cultural Affairs Officer here at the U.S. Embassy. I am responsible for managing all of our grants and exchanges and also our other programs here at the Public Affairs section, Public Diplomacy section. I'm so happy to see there's a large interest in our Statement of Interest this year. And so we will be discussing about it. But first, I'm also joined by my colleague Riyad, who is here also to help during this presentation. But I am going to sort of lead this and do sort of an introduction about the whole process. So first of all, here at the U.S. Embassy in Beirut, the public diplomacy section is one of the many sections here at the U.S. Embassy that has grants available to the public. So there is USAID, has grants available, MEPI, DRL, PRM, DOD, and public diplomacy. So this is like all these other sections have different sort of grants available. But the public diplomacy section, we have our two grants available that are the annual program statement and the statement of interest grants. And the annual program statement grant is a larger grant that is about $250,000 of grant funding for the maximum amount of funding, and the minimum is 25,000. And it's similar it's in the application process and also the focus areas to the SOI. However, SOI is a little bit more focused and has also a grant ceiling, or the maximum amount you can get is 25,000. So I'm going to go ahead and do this overview, but I want to remind everyone that if you have any questions, please submit the questions in the chat box below, and Riyad or I will be able to answer these questions as we go along. So first, I want to introduce you guys to how to find the Statement of Interest grant. And so I'm going to share my screen. Bear with me as I make sure this works. Screen one. Here it is. Okay. Okay. So to access the Statement of Interest grants, first you have to go to grants.gov. So just search grants.gov, and then you're here again. And then it's a really comprehensive space, this website. This is where all of the US government advertises its grant funding opportunities or notice of opportunities. So a lot of the information is there for everybody to use and look at. Become familiar with interface, but the most important thing is to actually go to the search grants portion of it, which is over here to the left side of the page, and then press the search, and it'll take you to the search grants page. And then as you see, there's a population of grants all over the world that appear here. Most of this is not relevant to Lebanon, so to find our specific grants for the public diplomacy section in Lebanon, write in the keyword section, Lebanon, search. And then you'll find here on the top, these two grants. One of them I mentioned before is the annual program statement called APS, annual program statement right here. And then we will have also the USMC's Statement of Interest Grant, or SOI. And so for this session, we are here to learn about the SOI. So you click on this opportunity here, and I'll take you to a page about the viewing all of the grant opportunity summary. And so this is important because this will just give you a summary of it, of like when we post to the grant, last updated. The most important things here is, of course, our closing date for the application is on June 28th, 2024. The estimated total funding gives you about 100,000. We will award up to 25,000 and award floor of 5,000. And here it is, we expect to award about 5 grants or so, depending on the applications that we receive. And this is our interest here. But I going to delve into this more, but I wanted to show you this so you understand. So there is also a related documents tab, and this is where you can download a zip folder to download all of the application for and guidance for the specific grant. If this is your first time applying, this will be important to download this entire package, and then you can preview it. You can preview the grants here, and then you will be able to open up all of the related versions of what you need for the grant. So I am going to come back to now, stop sharing my screen, and ask, and then, okay. And so what is, so first of all, I guess the program description of what we're looking for this year in our grants. So as I said, is that we are going to be funding around a maximum amount of $25,000 is what the grant ceiling amount is. That's how much you can apply for. And the minimum amount is 5,000. You can apply as an organization or individual for this. And so if you are an up-and-coming, established NGO, you can apply for this. And also as an individual, you can apply for this. And so all of this information exists on the grants.gov page on how to apply for each pathways. But what are we looking for this year in this statement of interest grant? So first and foremost, I should preview by saying that during this presentation, we will answer as many questions as possible. But one thing that we cannot do is we cannot advise you on what topics, what specific grants would be most successful. We do not advise on grants itself. We are giving you the opportunity to come up with your own projects, but we have subject areas that we are interested in. And so this year for the SOI, we are interested in any projects that deal with arts and culture, climate action, human rights, and freedom of expression, sports, and experiential learning. I'm going to put this into the chat so that you guys can see that. And so this is the small opportunity of grants, and so if this is your first time, I think it's important for you guys to think carefully about what projects would be most appropriate. And what is really great is that it allows you to do a lot of experimentation. So the US Embassy, we welcome a lot of new ideas, innovative ideas, and this is also a great way actually to learn about how to apply and handle a US government grant, since the grant amount is only around the maximum amount is 25,000. So in arts and culture can mean very broadly many things, from dance to arts to whatever you think is valuable to preserve here in Lebanon, or etc. Climate action, we all believe that the challenges of climate change is really serious, and so figuring out what does Lebanon really need help and assistance with when it comes to climate action, human rights, and freedom of expression. It aligns with our values, of the U.S. values of making sure that human rights and freedom of expression is paramount here. So what are the things that you guys are most interested in? Sports, self-explanatory, think about anything there. And experimental learning, this really means like learning by doing. It's sort of like a educational experience that you will like to kind of design a program around to either educate or inform a specific set of audiences. So the objectives of these grants is to, of course, come up with a project within this areas of arts and culture, climate action, human rights and freedom of expression, or sports and experimental learning. But it's also to advance the partnerships and connections between American and Lebanese organizations. And so if you can think about a tie-in, this means if you can think about a tie-in with how to connect American organizations and Lebanese organizations, or Americans and Lebanese together in a really innovative way, this is what we're looking for too. But we also want to stress the importance of diversity, inclusion, and equity and accessibility components within our grants, or DEIA. This is a very important portion of what we look for. is that we want to engage with a variety of audiences here in Lebanon and outside of Beirut also. And so that's important to us, is making sure that we have a diversity of representation from geographic regions, confessional backgrounds, from age backgrounds, etc. All the different indicators of diversity. Equity, we want to increase, equity be in terms of like for women, for vulnerable populations, underrepresented populations, and inclusion. If there are people who have been excluded, we want them to be included within opportunities. And accessibility. If, for example, we do a lot of disability work here at the embassy too, and so if there is some projects that you think of that would help the community with persons experiencing disabilities, then that is a very important thing. Do we need to partner with an American NGO or not? You do not need to partner with an American NGO. Sorry, that was a question. A question was, do you need to partner with an American NGO or not? And you don't need to partner with an American NGO. You yourself, if you're an individual, you can apply for the grant, or if you're a registered NGO or organization here in Lebanon, you can apply. So Okay, we will worry about, I'll answer the questions about the website later in a moment, but we will go on to the types of funding instruments. So the funding instruments mean that grants operate in a kind of different ways. There are a few different types of instruments. One is called, these are funding instruments means like the type of mechanism and involvement of the US government within a grant. So a grant is one of them, and it's a fixed amount award is another one, and a cooperative agreement. They all have each of the different types of compliances that you have to do. So for a grant is that the organization that applies has a lot of purview and responsibility for whatever the project that they want to do. And a fixed award amount is a grant that is fixed at the amount that you receive. So let's say if you apply for 20,000, you cannot ask for a cost amendment or like change the amount, or it has to remain at 20,000. So it requires a lot of accuracy knowing how much the project costs. And a cooperative agreement requires sort of more involvement from the US Embassy. So if you figure that you want a project that has more involvement in the US Embassy side, or if you need help, that is the instrument that we'll be using in the project that we'll be doing. But these are things that we will be looking at ourselves when we receive sort of the applications themselves. So those are the types of possibilities that we will be awarding a grant to. Then we also have sort of the eligibility information next to make sure that you know how to apply for the grant. You must be a registered US or Lebanese organizations. You must be a think tank, civil society organizations, non-government organizations, US or Lebanese citizens, educational institutions. One important thing is that if you are a for-profit institution, unfortunately, you're not eligible to apply for grants. We cannot issue grants to for-profit organizations. And so let me just we talked about sort of the concentration areas, the grants, the eligibility, and then we're going to talk now about the application submission process. In your SOI, and I know there's questions about the application process itself, so I wanted to provide sort of a clarity of like first the concepts of the grant, but for your application and submission information, in the grants.gov page, you will see all the information that we require for this, and I think maybe that will be useful for this portion of it. I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to download, let me see, right here. I think it'll be useful for you all to see this. Give me 1 second, apply. Okay. So this is sort of the document that you will receive when you download the package from the grants.gov page. And so as I was saying, this is sort of the information that you need about the grant, the program description of what we are looking for, and then the program overview and application and audiences, et cetera, et cetera. One thing to really notice here is that the SOI is the first step in a two-step process. This is what I was meaning to explain now in the application process, is that in the first step, you will submit a concise three-page statement design of clearly communicating the idea and the project proposal and objectives. It is not a full proposal. It gives us sort of an idea of exactly how you want to do the grant. And then after we select sort of the final view of the what is it called? The statement of interest, we will then ask you to submit a full-fledged application afterwards. So the first step is to really make an application of a three-page document of knowing what the outline of your idea is, and then we will review it, and then we will send you further instructions on the process. One thing to notice is that all of the information on this specific document is really important to read. So this will tell you also the federal award information about how long the project should be, up to 12 months, and about how many awards that we decide to give. This is the information that I informed you guys about the grant amount and what kind of grant instrument will be available. And then also here's a performance period. And this is the eligibility information. So in this portion of it, I will come back now to the application submission. So we are looking for the following information. The content of the SOI must kind of provide a summarization first of the problem, statement, goals, objectives, outcomes, beneficiaries, proposed timeline of activities, a clear statement of the application's organizational individual capacity to carry out the proposed activity, anticipated total budget amount in US dollars, and documents must fully be in English. We also require that the documents be in a certain format, 12-point calligraphy format with font with margins, and then the dates are over here. So I know that this is kind of all new and kind of a little bit new for many individuals attending the session, but all of the information that we are providing is all online, and we encourage you guys to read it. I will open now the floor for questions because I feel like it is important for me to go back and see these questions here. But yes, let me see. Is there any questions? If anyone has any questions, they can also unmute themselves or type in the chat.
CJ, if I may relay some of the questions that we have received through the chat box during your presentation.
Yes, please.
So just to reconfirm, so we're accepting proposals ranging from $5,000 to $25,000 through this SOI. And again, as CJ tried to explain during his presentation, the SOI is intended to give everyone an opportunity to submit creative and innovative ideas. So in the chat box, we have specific questions about specific proposals, although we cannot comment on these, but we encourage you to formulate your proposal in a way that targets one of these 5 areas of priority that we mentioned in the presentation, all while taking into account DIA principles and the American-Lebanese relationship. We have a question about registration. UEIs are mandatory. So as a first step, by June 28, what we would like to see is a 3-page narrative proposal The SOI itself, the document itself, when you go to grants.gov, you can look it up. And you can download the document as CJ showed you a few minutes ago. So in that 7-pager, there are different types of details that could help guide you to develop your proposals and submit them through our email address. So you do not need to apply through the grants.gov portal, but through the email address, pdbeirutgrants@state.gov. And as you will see in the document itself, there is a section that explains and outlines essentially how we evaluate the proposals that we receive. So there is a dedicated section that elaborate on all of this information. So please take a close look at it. It could help guide your thought process as well. One important thing to mention, if you are a group of individuals, so we have received this question in the chat box. So if you are a group of individuals who do not have a registered organization, or if the organization itself does not have a UEI, eventually you will need to have this process completed to be eligible to get the final funding. So it is a long process, but just to mention something, the deadline for submissions is June 28th. And then our team will convene an interagency panel to review the proposals, and then the shortlisted ones will be invited to submit a full-fledged proposal packet that includes different types of documentation and CVs and a detailed budget, in addition to the UEI registration. So you have enough time to start the process today if you are an organization, and to have it complete by the time of application. You do not need to be based in Lebanon to apply, but definitely, I mean, we would like to see how your remote location, for instance, would not be a handicap for you to be able to implement in Lebanon or to work with Lebanon stakeholders, etc. So try to elaborate more on that. We can basically serve anyone in Lebanon. So we do not look specifically for host communities or refugee communities or Palestinian refugee women, as one of the questions mentions, but we look at the general idea, the innovative part of it, the creativity, the solid idea in terms of, okay, we would like to implement this project and these are the outcomes. So try to think about all of that when developing the proposal itself. Okay, I'm going further down through the chat box. Okay, so we have a question. We will be applying in the sports field, but we did not understand what should be the purpose in sports. Training, event, women. It could be any of these. It could be something different. So we try to, in terms of sports and any type of experiential learning, we would like to see like a solid idea for a project that has a specific start and a specific end that are defined by what we usually refer to as a SMART objective, like a well-defined objective that is specific, time-bound, and relevant to the idea. So if you are training women to do what in this case? If you are planning an event, what would be the purpose of that event? So you need to elaborate all of these elements in your proposal. We have a question about eligibilities. So we cannot support for-profit organizations or public entities in this case. So you need to provide enough documentation that shows if you are a not-for-profit organization or not. And usually this process would be completed through your UEI registration. In terms of deadlines, so the initial deadline is June 28. We expect to inform all selected and non-selected applicants by July 26. And then our team would reach out to you and start what we call the pre-award negotiation process, where we would be working together to finalize the project design, like the monitoring and evaluation plan, reviewing some of your budget ideas, so that we plan to issue the shortlisted and successful grants around September, early September. So you need to plan accordingly. Okay. CJ, we have a question about the age range of youth.
Youth are broadly defined.
Yeah.
There is no age definition for youth. in the U.S. government.
We're happy to take any additional questions. I don't think we missed any questions.
I think many of the questions that we are receiving, and I see a lot of them, are specific questions about like an idea or a concept that you guys may have. And unfortunately, we are not able to answer those types of questions because we're not able to guide or give advice to the process. This is really up to all of you for a creative process. And I know this is difficult, but it is part of the things of why we have sort of a completely transparent set of documents that are online for everyone to have equal opportunity.
Exactly. Yes. Okay, good question on UEI. CJ, if I may answer that.
Yes.
So essentially, once you download the SOI document, there is language that guides you through the registration process. So UEIs are obtained through the sam.gov portal. I'm sharing the link, the URL in the chat box for everyone to. You can basically go to that portal and right on the like the front page, you have the guidelines to renew your registration if you already had one, or to get a new registration. Exactly, Farah. So we received the question. Yes, the first step is to prepare a statement of interest of 3 pages and email it to our PD beirutgrants@state.gov.
Yes.
Okay. Other than that, for more specific questions on project ideas, again, we cannot answer these, but we encourage you to read the statement of interest very carefully. It provides enough details that could help you develop your ideas. CJ, we have a question. Maybe you would like to take this one. Would you kindly elaborate on the partnerships and connections between American organizations? For example, if an individual is thinking of cooperating with an American registered NGO.
Yes. So that collaboration and how it looks like is completely up to you. So we just connect to the organization, see if they're willing to work with you, and then present it as part of your proposal. I'm afraid that's all we can give you.
Exactly. Yeah.
So again, so I see a lot of eligibility questions for profit, and I know that is a little bit confusing. But if your organization generates income that is not like an NGO, is not structured like an NGO, you're not eligible for this grant. We are just by US law not able to give any money to a revenue generating business.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a question about the SAM registration and UEI registration. So how much time does it take? It really depends, but you should plan for anything from 15 to 20 days. But the system has some delays in processing, so start as early as possible if you can. So in terms of whether UEIs are mandatory at the SOI stage, they are not, but by the time we start the pre-award negotiations, you will be asked to provide your active UEI registration number. And by the time of issuance of the grant, you need to have an active UEI number. And just to remind everyone, UEIs are required for organizations, but not for individuals. Okay, so if you are an individual trying to submit a proposal, please go ahead and do it. You don't need a UEI number.
Yeah, I will share about our university's eligible or not. This is from our SOI pay summary. So eligibility information summary.
Exactly. Thank you.
I cannot, from that question, I cannot discern whether or not they fit within this criteria or not.
We have a question about sustainability, especially when it comes to climate action. So again, we encourage all applicants to emphasize or to show any plan for sustainability or intended sustainability for their respective projects. So we definitely encourage that, keeping in mind that we are talking about, to some extent, smaller projects that could be like pilots or first being implemented for the first time. So we want to encourage creativity, all while not sacrificing sustainability, if that makes sense. Again, we cannot answer specific questions about specific proposals. We encourage you to review the SOI with all the details and information. One thing, if I may, CJ, explain in more details. So the SOI, once we receive it, we will review it based on a set of criteria, and that is available in the SOI under application review information. So an interagency panel will be convened to review the SOIs in this case, and we allocate 15 points for strategic value in terms of how you are tying your idea to the objectives that we are stating at the beginning of the SOI, as well as DIA, as well as the American and Lebanese connection, etc. We are allocating 10 points for the quality of the project idea. To what extent it is innovative, it is well communicated and feasible for implementation, as well as additional information. 10 points for project goals and objectives, to what extent you are able to formulate the ideas objective in a smart, well-defined, clear way that is eventually easily evaluated. And then 10 points for project ability to achieve objectives and reach key audiences based on the initial audience priorities that we mentioned. And finally, 5 points for budget. Again, you are expected to provide like a very basic budget plan. Eventually, the team will work with you to develop like a more detailed one. So your proposals will be evaluated based on a 50-point system that has like 5 different elements.
Yes.
Okay.
And yes, all of these details are online. I'm posting it in the chat since everyone is looking for this information. All of this information is online, yes.
Exactly. Again, please check the grants.gov portal. As CJ has showed you like a few minutes ago, this is the portal that you can check anytime to see any funding opportunity that is of relevance, any US government funding opportunity that is being offered by any agency around the world. And then you can look up specific opportunities based on your location maybe, or theme of interest, etc. So grants.gov, search grants, you can maybe search Lebanon, and then you will have a list of active funding opportunities. And this is where you can find the SOI details and the package.
Looking through the answer questions.
There's one question about a defined purpose that concludes at a specific point. So it really depends. Without answering the specifics of the proposal or the idea, we are looking for SOIs that cover a period of implementation of up to 12 months. So this should be your defining, if you want, time frame, up to 12 months. That needs to be supported by your SMART objective, your eventual implementation timeline, your eventual M&E plan, etc. So it's up to 12 months, and you have to, yeah.
And that can be found under the program performance period of the SOI, and I just pasted it into the chat as well.
Yeah. Okay, we're happy to take any additional questions through the chat box. You can always reach out to us through our PD Beirut grants at state.gov should you need any additional clarifications or information as well.
Yes. Okay. Yes, I will send you the links right now. This is for grants.gov.
Okay.
And you have sam.gov
as well. Yep. And maybe our email address.
Yes.
PD Beirut.
And PD Beirut.
At state.gov.
Yes, I'm making sure I get that right.
And if I may seize this opportunity to encourage everyone to follow our social media platforms on Instagram, X, Facebook, as well as our website.
Yes.
So we usually promote all our funding opportunities as well as any other interesting and exciting projects that the embassy is doing in Lebanon on these platforms.
Okay. Just yes. We are hosting this grant session that is available for the public. And then, so that question was, will you be available for other questions during the application process period? So we are available to answer questions related to not the specific types of applications that will come through, but if you have issues with any sort of like understanding of where to find information from grants.gov or even sam.gov, you can send us those questions. But please make sure to understand that we cannot answer any specific questions to an application. Okay, I am going to conclude this chat. Thank you so much for all attending. We appreciate you all so much for showing up, and we hope that it was fruitful. I'm sorry we cannot always give the information that we can give, but it's all available online. And if you have any questions about that, use each other as resources. I invite you guys to do that too. And so we look forward to receiving your applications. And please also, if you have feedback about this session, please let us know in email as well. Thank you so much, and hope to have these applications sometime soon.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.